And you thought everyone was tuning into our Cineo special tonight. No, no, nah, not. Welcome back to TGIF. We had a great time last week. We had phone calls last week about the show. I got phone calls at home.
You did?
Yes, I did. I got 2 phone calls.
You didn't tell us that.
Well, I saved it for the show. But anyway, tonight my guests are sculptor Gary Lang, who's going to talk to us about a Revolutionary War memorial for the town of Litchfield, and returning with new things, Jonathan Ross. We're going to talk about Star Trek, and listen to this. Listen. Can you hear that?
We're under siege.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? So, don't put the deflector shields up. We'll be back in just a minute with some good stuff. Yeah! My first guest is a first-time visitor to TGIF, and I'm sure he's going to have a great time. Welcome, Gary Lang. Hi. See? We're crazy. I told you we had a fun time here. Okay. Now, Gary, you're a sculptor.
Yes.
How long have you been, and have you always worked in sculpting, or did you move into sculpting from some other form of art?
Well, for a long time, I used to be a paperback illustrator.
Oh.
I illustrated for about 15 years.
What kinds of books did you do work for?
I did romances, action, adventure, young adult, that kind of thing.
Wow. And what got you interested in sculpting?
Well, I think in the back of my head, I always had just a love, a certain something that was just kind of stirring within me.
Yeah.
And I just think even when I illustrated, my heart was not really there. I think the love of the three-dimensional, working with an object that I could pick up and rotate and feel, versus, say, something that's two-dimensional, it's still flat. I mean, when you work in the two-dimensional, you may be creating an optical illusion of space, but it's
with
not
shadowing and things like that.
That's right, but actually what you really are doing is doing just that. It's a flat piece of board or canvas, and it's strictly just that, an optical illusion. I mean, if I wanted to look like a tunnel or whatever, it's just how I create that effect.
Now, this is certainly no optical illusion. Now, this is something that you've done. Now, how long ago did you do this piece?
I did that about 3 years ago.
Now, is this brass?
This is bronze.
Bronze, I'm sorry, bronze. Okay.
Well, actually, I worked up a little model and had a cast in bronze. That is where I use a foundry for that kind of a thing.
Okay, now we're getting into the technical end of it a little bit now, like in steps. For someone like me who knows nothing at all about sculpting, like what was the first thing, did you draw a sketch of this first? Or did you actually work with clay, or how did you start this image and to get it where it is now?
Oh, I have to think about that one. It's been a while. I do know a few years ago I did an advertisement for rescue here in town. I had a girl doing a one-armed handstand, and I liked the pose that she was in, and it made me think, why don't I do a sculpture of a girl doing a one-armed handstand? Now you notice she's not doing a one-armed handstand.
I was going to say, yeah,
she's the wrong way. No, what happened?
We could flip it over, I guess.
What really happened was, as I got into it, I thought in the long run, I liked the twist that the model was getting into. Naturally, she was posing right side up.
Okay.
Yes. I was going to simulate it, and I decided no, I just thought I would, just the twisting motion itself, I wanted to concentrate on that, not get into doing a full figure with heads, arms, hands, feet, and so forth.
Right. Just the beauty of the torso in motion, sort of frozen there like that.
Yes, it almost takes on like an architectural kind of a form. That's what I'm. I mean, it's a woman's torso and so forth, but it's the shapes themselves. I wanted to concentrate on the basic action, and I felt by going into the rest of it might detract a little bit.
Okay. Now, what you're actually here, though, to share with your neighbors and friends is a project that you're working on for a Revolutionary War memorial for the town of Litchfield.
Yes.
Okay, now I understand that you brought with you some sketches of what this might look like. Now this is a proposed idea that, of course, you're hoping that they will accept. And now, do you have an idea? Now I know we talked about this. This is the magic of television. We talked about this before, but we'll pretend we didn't. Where do you think they might put this if they were to accept the proposal? Where would you like to see it?
Well, I have several ideas in mind. I do know that, for example, the town green I was originally thinking of, but I do know, as I have been talking to a number of people, that some people would prefer it maybe, but not on the town green. There is a place even near the center school where it could be placed. There's even a possibility of it being placed on the community field and so forth. But the reason I'm just kind of keeping it open is, I mean, that's something I think I shouldn't be too forceful on, because the important thing for me is to try to get it accepted. And if I come in and say, I think it should be here too much, and because I'm learning in Litchfield, there are a lot of people who have very strong feelings about what should be on the town green, which is not meant as a value judgment for or against it. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but it's not a case of right or wrong.
Oh, sure, sure. Why don't we take a look at the sketch that you have here? Let's hold it up. We'll get a camera.
Hold it up to the camera?
Yes, we'll get a camera on it. We'll kind of steady it here if you want. Yeah, sit. Just get it level there. Can we get a close-up of this? Now, who are we looking at?
Well, the person is really a generic kind of a person.
Okay.
And
any specific inspirations that you had when you were doing this?
Well, what I really did was I was thinking of some of the famous people who fought in the American Revolution from the town of Litchfield. Ethan Allen, for example, is supposed to be from the town of Litchfield originally.
Really?
Or actually, I read someplace, I think there was something like 92 people, or approximately 92 people that were sent off to the war. And I thought, we have all these monuments to the American Revolution, I mean to other wars,
right,
but there's nothing to honor the American Revolution. I thought,
which is sort of what New England is.
That's right.
When you think of that, right.
And I thought to myself, well, should be something to commemorate that war with all these famous people. And I mean it's the war that got our country started. It's the war that really made us
what we are.
Made us what we are.
Exactly.
We're able to sit here today.
Exactly. Now, you obviously had to do a little research. You had to look into history.
Yes.
I mean, not only at pictures, but probably just some of the actual events that happened perhaps in this part of New England during the war. Were there any things that that stood out for you that gave you inspiration as you were working along on this project?
Well, it's a funny thing. I mean, even though Litchfield furnished a lot of people who were in the war,
right,
there was a particular battle, even though it wasn't fought in Litchfield. I think it was fought in the Danbury area, I believe against some Tories, but I remember there was supposed to be some person from the area, I think 76 years old, and I guess they say he was a crack shot. And every time he shot his rifle, he brought someone down. Especially in the old days of the old flintlocks.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't steady like they are today. Those things were cumbersome.
Not a precision instrument by any means.
In those days, when you were a crack shot, it really meant you were a crack shot. Not that I meant to put down any of the fine sportsmen and military people today who are excellent. Excellent at what they do. But what I mean is, I think it's a little harder when you do have something which probably, I imagine it must have had a kick to it too. I don't know for sure.
I would imagine so. Now, this statue, this monument, if completed, how would it be, like life-size? Would it be like 6 feet tall, or would it be something proportionately larger than that?
I say about 6 feet tall. I mean, of course we have to take into consideration the fact that there weren't that many 6-footers in that day.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Now, is it going to be, do you see it being made in bronze like this work here, or in some other medium?
I think bronze would be a fine medium, because bronze, when it oxidizes, it doesn't rust the way a lot of other metals would. It will turn a greenish color, but I mean, it's not going to erode.
Actually,
you won't see his gun or his head disappearing in 10 years or something like that.
Well, that's comforting to know.
After all, it's a memorial, not a.
Well, that'd just be the headless horseman. I mean, you know, something.
We can change.
Exactly,
the,
right. You know,
I'm up to that too.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you very much, Gary, for coming on, and I wish you a great deal of success. Now, as this project goes along, let us know how it goes, because if you get into the stages where, you know, the proposal is accepted, then you're probably going to have some working models, and maybe we can get either maybe some videotape, or maybe if it's not too big or too heavy, you know, maybe we can get something in here.
Sure.
If it's not like huge, you know.
Yes.
Would you like that?
Well, sure. I'm always willing to try to promote an idea. And
Well, great. Well, great.
Especially one of your own.
Exactly.
Especially one of my own, yes.
Exactly. Gary, I want to thank you very much
Thank
for
you
coming
very
on the
much.
show. I wish you much luck.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with Jonathan Ross.
Hey!
Well, it took 15 or 20 shows, but I just learned that this is camera 3. And I always thought it was camera 2. Because, kill him! No, no, I'm tickled to death. My next guest has been on the show before. He came and spoke about comic books and comic book collecting. Tonight, being a man of many talents and interests, he's going to be showing us and sharing with us some Star Trek memorabilia, and we're going to talk about the virtues of the old versus the new versus the real new and all that good stuff. Won't you please welcome Mr. Jonathan Ross?
We're back. Hello.
We're back.
We're back.
Thank you.
We're back.
Yes, yes. Welcome.
Welcome.
Now, can we get like a wide shot here? I just want to kind of like get a view of the desk.
Of the toys.
Of the toys.
I brought toys today for everybody. Yes.
Jonathan brought toys. And maybe we should like scatter them out.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
like,
we have tribbles, we have phasers, we have communicators.
Yes, look at this stuff. Close in on it. Somebody, anybody.
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 Get a close-up shot. Yeah, this
there
is
we go.
my little toy communicator.
All right,
Good old
yeah.
Captain Kirk used to just say, "Beam me up, Scotty," using this thing, you know.
Open it up.
And-
Do that Star Trek flip.
Oh, wait, we gotta get pull back. You know, it'd say, "Beam me up, Scotty." You know,
See, it
all
works
the
for me.
famous stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
and we have our little phasers and stuff like that in our
This is a
Enterprises.
phaser? Oh, okay.
That's a phaser.
Oh.
Yes, that's a phaser. This is a phaser from the original Star Trek, a replica that they used back then. And well, we're not in a close-up. Oh, get this on camera. This is a phaser from the original show, and then this is what the next generation phaser looks like. They've streamlined it and all that. It looks so nice and neat and silver. You know, all high tech, super high tech. What we've done in 20 years real time, supposedly 75 years Star Trek time. Even streamlined the Enterprise this year. Is the next generation Enterprise, all nice and super streamlined. And if you pan over to the other side of the desk, you've got the original Enterprise, which oddly enough, the scale is actually about correct between the two ships. That the new Enterprise is actually supposed to be this much bigger than that one over there.
Now, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be twice as big in all dimensions, and like 8 times the volume, and more than double the crew capacity, and all sorts of fun stuff.
What is the crew capacity of the old one?
The old Enterprise had a crew capacity of 430. The new Enterprise supposedly has a crew capacity of 1,012. You didn't think I knew that, did you?
We have other Treksters amongst us.
Yes.
Yes. Now, I want to play with this.
Okay.
Okay, because I had.
Yes. They're toys. Yes.
They're toys.
Yeah, this one is definitely a toy.
Yeah. This.
Go down
This.
Toys R Us.
What?
You can pick it up if you want.
This? I can pick it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I won't
It's just a nice.
go to hell or
Don't
anything.
kill the engines.
Yes.
Yes. Don't touch. Yes.
Yeah, well, they come off, yeah,
They come
because
off.
that's part of the toy
That's-
appeal
yeah.
of destruction. The engines fall off.
Now
and
let's
stuff
see.
like that.
Now you tell me which sound I'm doing.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I do this?
Sort of to the side. There.
To the side?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Look at that. Woo! Okay.
That is supposedly the impulse engine sound effect.
Impulse engines.
Yes, and these are all gotten
Yes.
from the actual show
So
themselves.
they're sampled
They've all-
digitally
yes,
onto a
yes.
chip inside the spaceship.
Inside the space. That's your warp engines.
That's tremendous, and
That's your phasers firing, complete with explosion.
and
Those are your photon torpedoes.
if I hold it down,
Then it'll keep firing. This is the point where the crew would run back and forth across the stage to
and stagger back and forth, and hold on to things.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful! That's
Yes.
wonderful. Now, gosh, where do we begin?
Let's prop this up.
Oh, okay. Yes, we want to do this correctly.
Prop it back up so it looks nice and neat.
Okay, where should we begin? My gosh, there's so much history to Star Trek. Star Trek. I mean, we have about 3 series now.
3 series now. Yes, you have Star Trek, The Next Generation, and now you have the new Deep Space Nine. You also actually, what a lot of people are not aware of, there was actually another Star Trek TV series. A lot of people don't remember it, but there was an animated version of Star Trek back in the mid-70s.
That's right.
Yes, which
that's right.
I also have something from that too.
Ooh, more goodies.
More goodies. We have here, this is an
Oh, check it
animation
out.
cell used, let's get the glare. Okay. This is an animation cell used to make the cartoon series. This, as you can see, all of the crew are there, with the exception of Chekhov. He was not part of the crew.
Huh.
But believe it or not, the quality, although this was a cartoon series, animation, the quality of the show was quite good because Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, was the driving force behind the show, and also DC Fontana, who was the original story editor on the original show,
right, yeah.
also worked on it, and many of the writers who wrote episodes for the original series also wrote for the animated, and all of the cast used
Their own
their
voices.
own voices, yes. Captain Kirk was played in the animated by Bill Shatner, Leonard Nimoy did Spock, etc., etc. The entire crew did come back and use their voices to portray the characters again.
Wow. Now that I didn't know.
Yes.
I did not know that.
This is also a collectible, too.
A collectible.
Yes. I don't know what the current market
Price check
value
on-
of this. There were only 400 of these made. What the current market value, I don't know. Judging by what Disney stores and the like are getting for their limited edition cells, the Warner Brothers, they're usually in the price range of like $600 to $1,000, some of them. I don't think this is quite that valuable because a lot of those have signatures of the artist on them. This is not a signed copy. But like I said,
Six-fingered Spock.
oh, I don't have that one with me. Yes, there is one that shows
Six-fingered Spock.
Six-fingered Spock. Yes, it's an animation cell from the episode Yesteryear, where Spock traveled back and helped himself out as a little boy. On that animation cell itself, Spock is pointing more or less like this, and the way the configuration of the hand is like that, they actually drew like 4 fingers here, and then there was the thumb and the index finger pointing, so he actually had 6 fingers, which actually appeared that way on the series.
But it wasn't meant to be.
No,
It was
completely
just
an accident, yes.
An accident, a goof.
Yes. One of many bloopers which have appeared in Star Trek, yes.
Now, speaking of bloopers and things like that, the best place to see bloopers is at a Star Trek convention.
Star Trek conventions, yes. Although the conventions nowadays do not show the blooper reel anymore.
They
No.
don't?
No,
Okay.
Paramount won't allow them. However, if you go into the dealer's room, you can find dealers selling you a videotape copy of the blooper reel. You can find dealers selling you just about everything, including all of these fun things and a lot more that I could not ever even approach buying. I mean, just like as last time I talked about comic books, the same thing with Star Trek and other things, baseball, you know, just
Yeah.
about everything in existence these days, there's a vast collector's market for.
Right.
From actual used memorabilia, like you get a baseball that was actually hit by so-and-so in a home run or
Right.
something like that, to actual props that were used on the show here, to the most popular, readily available collectible items, such as just any ordinary household item that they've slapped the logo on. You know, you get a,
Like lunch
a
boxes.
coffee mug, a lunchbox,
Yeah.
whatever, that they put the baseball team's name on and stuff like that. And the same thing with Star Trek logos and stuff like that. You can get the same type thing.
Yeah. Now, I want to get back to the bloopers for a minute. Now, of course, it's not as good as seeing a blooper reel, like if we had one to run or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, you
but
should have brought it with me.
Oh, you do?
I do. I didn't even think to bring it, but yes, I do have the blooper reel
Oh my gosh.
on videotape.
Well, okay, but
Yes.
but being a talented professional person with a great narrative voice. No,
Yes.
no, and we'll talk about that later. Tell me some of the things that you've seen on the blooper reels. Just if you can describe some of the funny
the
things.
blooper reel, well, some of them are things that, like the just common technical errors. They will, how the doors are supposed to whoosh open when
Yeah.
they walk towards them. Well, that whoosh open is not like your supermarket doors where they whoosh open automatically as you walk into the supermarket these days. They actually had stage hands hidden behind the set, pulling a lever that would open the door. And since he's behind the set where he cannot always see what's going on, quite often he'd be late and you'd end up with actors walking into doors. You end up with, I remember one blooper where Kirk is trying to flip his little tricorder and it kept doing that. You know, over and over. And there are the usual bloopers that you see on foul-ups, bleeps, and blunders, or whatever the show is, of actors going up on lines, saying the wrong line. In fact, there's this one famous blooper where they played a joke, more or less, on Leonard Nimoy. They were supposedly running very late in the day, and they told him, "Look, we're running out of time. We have to get this scene. You know, we can't have another mistake in this scene. So get it right the front." And it was they really hyped it up and made Leonard very, very nervous. So he's all very serious, sitting in the captain's chair and stuff like that, ready to do this scene. And then what they had done is his son. They had his little son. I think Adam. I think he was like 9 years old at the time. They made him up in Spock ears, and he came out from behind the doors when they opened up and kissed his dad, and he just totally lost it. Then there were and like I said, there's other things of the cast members fooling around. I remember one close-up shot of Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura, at her usual communications console, calling the planet, saying, "Starbase 6, come in, Starbase 6," and some stagehand off said the line, you know, "Starbase 6, honey," and she's like, "Oh, hi, sugar, how you doing?" Although, like I said, there are several bloopers that found their way into the show themselves. A lot of them were technical type things. An emblem was missing, or this sort of thing. One blooper a big blooper that appeared in Star Trek The Motion Picture. At the time, the most expensive movie ever made, $40 million budget. And they re-edited it and came out with a special edition of Star Trek The Motion Picture. It was like 12 minutes longer. They added back some of the footage that was cut. One of the scenes that was added back into the movie is the scene of Captain Kirk, William Shatner, coming out of an airlock to go after Spock, who is exploring the V'ger spaceship and everything. And he's coming out of the airlock, and you see this underside view of the hull of the Enterprise, and as the camera pulls back, what you end up looking at is the ceiling of the studio. Because this shot was not in the original version, so they never did the matte painting, which would have shown the underside of the hull. So instead, like I say, as the camera pulls back, you see this nice high-tech science fiction-y airlock, and off to the side you see all the lights and stuff like that that's hanging there in the studio itself. Yeah.
And they actually put it back in and made money off of it.
Oh yeah, made lots of money off of it, and nobody even realized it until after the tape was out, and then it was in thousands of video stores everywhere, and it was too late.
Did they ever go back to correct the special edition?
No, so if you go and rent it or buy it, or if it's played on TV again, which I'm sure it will be, you'll see the ceiling of the studio instead of the underside of the Enterprise.
Now, speaking of the Enterprise, we have something here. Okay, now, can we get a close-up of this?
Oh, yes.
Now, yes. Now, what is this? Let me move the tribble here.
Yeah. Okay,
Zoom in.
Yeah. What that is a replica of the dedication plaque of the Enterprise, the next generation Enterprise, NCC 1701D. This is exactly as it appears on the show. This is put out by the Franklin Mint, which is a place where you can get a lot of good, very high quality collectibles. They're not the type of collectibles that I think will ever be worth money, because they mass produce these things. They're very high quality. They are a little bit pricey and everything, but this is as it appears on the show. I don't know if the camera can pick it up. I don't know if you can tilt the lights or anything.
Yeah, let's see.
But it basically says USS Enterprise, Galaxy Class, Starfleet Registry, and then it goes down later on to list all the different captains and designers and stuff like that, supposedly, that worked on the actual spaceship Enterprise. But if you really look at them and look at the list of names, what they are is actually people who worked on the show. Under Starfleet Command, it lists Admiral Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, of course. Then it lists Admiral Rick Berman and Mike Piller, who are currently the producers of the show. On down at the bottom, Admiral Susan Sackett, who was Gene Roddenberry's personal secretary. And then under such things as Advanced Technology Unit, it lists Rick Sternbach and Michael Lakuta, who are the technical advisors on the show. And under Yard Engineers, it lists Greg Jen, who is one of the model builders of the Enterprise. And so this is one of the things where a lot of them you'll never ever see on the show, because it's usually too small. All the little in-jokes. Like one of the things is each dedication plaque has the motto for that ship, which for the Enterprise it is the classic "To boldly go where no man has gone before." However, on some of the other dedication plaques that have appeared on some of the others, they put little in-jokes, like on one of them, which was, I think, the USS Brittany, it was a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, this is a sort of little in-jokes. In fact, if you were able to look at, I don't know if you ever remember on Next Generation, the engineering section, they have this big cutaway view of the Enterprise at the back of the engineering section.
Yeah.
If you could ever look at it up close, you will find a World War II airplane, a duck. Down in the engineering section, you see a man on a treadmill, which is how the Enterprise runs. There are all these little in-jokes here and there, and on the medical monitors.
Yeah.
Down in sick bay, where you have the blood pressure or
Right.
respiration.
Right.
There's also one of them that's labeled medical insurance remaining.
But they never close in on that
No,
one.
no, they never show you that in close-up. These are like a lot of the little things that they like to have fun with.
Now, before we go to a commercial break, that's a cue there.
Get ready.
For those who have lived in a hole for the last 30 years, what are these?
Those are tribbles.
Yes.
Those are probably the
Yes.
most inexpensive
Tribbles.
space aliens ever built. They're little balls of fur. They were created for an episode entitled "The Trouble with Tribbles," written
Yeah.
by David Gerald. I was thinking of his last name. I couldn't think of his first name.
They're
Yes.
soft and-
David Gerald. Yes. What they are is little animals that reproduce like crazy. They are basically born pregnant, and Lieutenant Uhura brings one onto the ship.
Isn't that special?
Yes. Lieutenant Uhura bring one onto the ship and thought it was so cute, and it had babies, and that they
Yeah.
gave them away to the other crewmen. And by the end of the episode, there were literally thousands and thousands of them all over. And as it turned out, they were the hero of the episode because they got into grain that was being shipped to save a planet at the time. And is because the tribbles all started dying, they found out that the Klingons had actually poisoned the grain.
Poisoned it, yes.
Yes.
Of course, now that was in the original Star Trek when the Klingons were the enemy. Now, maybe when we come back, we'll talk about the new Star Trek, where Klingons are actually on the ship and all kinds of new
They're the
things
good
take
guys,
place. Well, we're going to take a quickie. Do what? Yeah, we're going to take a quickie. I'm going to play with the tribbles, and we'll be back with more Star Trek goodies. Okay. All right. Now, before we talk about Klingons and the new
Klingons
Star
and
Trek
all
and all
that,
that, Jonathan has a update.
Oh yes, update from last time I was this I'm a Star Trek expert. Last time I was a comic book expert, and I had said about the death of Superman, forget it. And so, well, he's already back. In fact, they have 4 Supermen back in each of the 4 Superman titles. In Superman: The Man of Steel, you have this black guy wearing an iron suit, hence the Man of Steel. In Superman in Action Comics, his spirit has been reunited with his body by the little Kryptonian robots and stuff like that. In the Adventures of Superman, I believe, you have a cyborg version of Superman, and then in just plain Superman comics, you have a clone of Superman who has not quite fully grown to a man, so he's a teenager or whatever, who hates to be called Superboy. That's his shtick. He's rebellious and all this sort of thing because he wasn't brought up by John and Martha Kent, so he's sort of, rebellious and all that.
Gosh.
But Superman's back, as I had already said he was going to be, so he's not permanently dead.
Great predictions come true.
Yes.
Now, back to, what is this?
This. Oh, yes, we've replaced the Enterprise with a Klingon ship, yes. Yes, this is the Klingon ship from the movie version of Star Trek, and it also has been since reused in the Next Generation. The Klingons now in Next Generation time period are the allies of the Federation, whereas in the original they were the enemies, which sort of mirrors true life and everything. Russia, at the time of the original Star Trek, the Soviet Union was the model for the Klingons and stuff like that, the evil empire and all that sort of thing. And of course, all of a sudden, Russia's our friend again and stuff like that. And this was also predicted by the Organians, which were another alien race introduced in the episode that introduced the Klingons, saying that at one time they would be allies. And this was then hence passed on through into the Next Generation. In fact, in the last movie, The Undiscovered Continent, Undiscovered country. I'm sorry, thank you. It's a good thing I've got David here to correct me when I make a mistake. In the Undiscovered Country, they had the beginnings of the alliance between the Federation and the Klingons, which you know would lead into the Next Generation. This was something that was thought of as just an idea, sort of after the fact on Next Generation. In the original Bible for Next Generation, they did not include a Klingon character. It was an afterthought, and they hired Michael Dorn to play the now famous Lieutenant Worf in the show, and they just decided he more or less was just going to be like a background character, just to show that yes, the Klingons are now friends. And he evolved into one of the most popular characters. People seem to gravitate toward the alien characters. Spock was very popular.
Yeah, I was going to say,
series.
Exactly. Yeah.
Data and Worf are very popular in the Next Generation, and I'm sure that Odo, the shape-shifting alien played by René Auberjonois in Deep Space Nine, is going to be very, very popular as well.
Right. Now, this is a Klingon, what, bird of prey?
No, this is the Klingon battle cruiser.
Battle cruiser.
The bird of prey was introduced in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
And what's like the biggest difference in size of the ship?
The size is basically, this one here was supposedly comparable to the Enterprise in size and manpower and all that. The Bird of Prey was created to be a smaller ship. Its crew complement was only supposed to be something like 20 or 30 people. You know, very small ship.
Okay.
In fact, the Bird of Prey ship was then used by Kirk and company in the voyage home.
Right.
They had commandeered it from the Search for Spock, and they used it to go back. And as you can see, it was a small ship that was able to land on the planet and stuff like that.
In a park.
In fact, you got a good sense as to the size of the ship in the scene towards the end of the movie, where it was hovering above the whaling ship that was after the two whales. So by contrast, you could see that it is not this massive ship, which the original Enterprise in this was supposedly about the size of an aircraft carrier, whereas that one is, you know, much smaller.
Now, something that has always puzzled me, and you can explain this, I'm sure. If anyone can explain it, you can explain it.
God, you're going to put me on the spot.
Yes,
Okay,
the heat's
what is
on
it?
now.
Yes, what is it?
Why is it?
Why?
If they can put a man in the Enterprise, that they cannot make the Enterprise invisible. All the enemies can make their ships invisible, but why can't they?
Believe it or not, I've got an answer to it. I've got an answer to it, yes, because that's a question that was brought up many, many times with all the cloaking devices and stuff like that. And the answer that Gene Roddenberry has said as to why is because the Federation does not go sneaking around out there. They are not on covert bad things in mind and in intentions when they go out there. Their purpose in outer space is to explore. And so, like I say, they don't want to go sneaking around out there and say, no, we're going to, you know, no.
So, in other words, they could if they want to.
Yeah, they could if they want to, but the Federation has very altruistic intentions in mind. Theirs is to boldly go where no man has gone before, to explore. I think that is one of the main reasons for the success of Star Trek. I mean, this is one of the questions that is asked time and time again of all of the creators, of all the people that have worked on the show, the performers and everything. They constantly say, what do you believe is the reason for the phenomenal success of Star Trek? And I think the reason is basically because of the positive outlook, the positive attitude.
I was just going to say, it shows the world that could be.
It says, for one thing, it says that we're going to survive.
Yeah.
It says that we're not going to all die in a World War III nuclear war and everything. We're going to survive. We're going to smarten up and learn to care for one another rather than killing one another, which I think is the big thing. That's got an optimism effect. It has a very positive outlook towards the future. And this is the one thing that I think is really lacking in most of the other science fiction genre shows that come out. So many of them have one of two basic plots, which is the whole crux of the show, which is either, number one, to get back home or find a new home, Lost in Space, Space 1999, Time Tunnel, etc., get back home or find a new home, or to get rid of the bad guys, eliminate the aliens, War of the Worlds, V, all of that. That seems to be the crux of the vast majority of them. There's this one goal concept to it, whereas Star Trek's concept is basically the universe, to go out and find out what's out there.
And
to make friendly contact and to meet what's out there and to try and learn. And with that positive attitude, I think that is the big reason why Star Trek has always been such a big success.
And what is the prime directive?
The prime directive is non-interference. That is their prime thing, to contact, but to not interfere. To when they approach the planet and stuff like that, they say, we want to learn about you, we want to know about you, we want to be your friends, but we are not going to interfere. We don't want to take over your planet. We don't want to try to make you be like us and stuff like that. Your planet is yours, which is also a very positive attitude of, you know, what's yours is yours. We're not going to try to take it from you.
Right, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, during the break, I was saying maybe we should talk about, you know, we'll do a little critiquing, you know, of the shows. Now, of course, this is, you know, your personal opinions, your findings, and of course, you have a theater background as well, so I'm sure you can shed some light on some things. First of all, we'll just get it out now. Which show do you like the best personally? What's your personal favorite?
Oh God, it's so hard to say. The originals, because the two shows were from two different eras with two different outlooks.
Right.
I mean, obviously the new show has had more time for character development. There's much more thought into the new show. I mean, the old show, the attitude was, let's, you know, put the show together on the road. I mean, even Gene Roddenberry was faced with it in the beginning when he was coming up with the initial concept. He was constantly being badgered by all of these men in suits. Yes, men in suits who handle the money, all saying basically, you know, come on, Gene, you know, let's put a bunch of blinking lights in the background and get this show on the road.
Right.
You know,
it was a business proposition.
Right. Whereas Gene Roddenberry's whole attitude was, if the audience doesn't believe that we're actually on a spaceship out there in outer space, for want of a better term, the show is not going to fly. sorry. But, you know, so, and back then, I mean, they were just interested in putting on this TV show with no real all-encompassing thought. After the fact, after it's become so popular, people have gone back and filled in the holes.
Right.
Whereas these days, when they do Next Generation, they are very conscious of how everything fits together. This is why, as you watch the show these days, you see many, many references to past episodes, to past events.
Right.
They want to keep an overall continuity going. And so that, to me, makes it a somewhat better show. The original series is much more action-oriented. If you take a look at the two captains, I mean, Picard very much will sit there and negotiate and talk and try to work things out, whereas Kirk was more a man of action, ready to, you know, with the phasers and stuff like that.
Right.
But we've learned, but even in the original series, they didn't always go to the phasers first. I mean, Star Trek took a different look at things. In many, many science fiction shows of the past, it was always, oh, this ugly alien is evil, it's killing, you know, let's kill it, get rid of it, and you know, people are being hurt by it.
Right.
But in one classic episode, Devil in the Dark, they had this colony of miners who were being attacked and killed by this horrible creature and stuff like that. And Star Trek took a look and said, why? Why is this alien creature attacking and killing our people? And as it turned out, it turned out to be a mother alien creature that was protecting its eggs. What had happened was they had these silicon eggs that looked like a silver punch ball, if you will.
Yeah.
These were the eggs, and what had happened, they thought they were just these mineral oddities in the storyline. And they took them and broke them and stuff like that. They didn't realize they were killing all these little baby creatures.
Yeah.
And so basically what it was is the alien creature was a mother protecting its young. And once they took that look at why, it brought a totally different coloring. Like I said, in most science fictions of the past, especially the 50s, the great monster movies and stuff like that, the B movies, it was always this ugly monster. It's here, it's attacking, let's kill it. Star Trek took a different look at it, you know, to say why, find out what you know, what is going on. So you know, so it's, like I said, it's hard to say which is my favorite. Obviously, the new show has its advantages in that it's ongoing. You know, still in development and still filling in the holes. There was a recent episode on this past week or 2 weeks ago, which filled in a hole that has bothered a lot of people for a long time. Why do all the aliens look human?
Okay.
Basically, well, within the real world, basically because they're being played by human beings. You know, that's the basic crux of it. But they were always wondering why you couldn't have, you know, things with 4 arms and 12 eyes and all these things, which
like
sometimes
in
they got,
Wars.
yeah, they got similar to that sometimes, but they basically came up with a storyline where there was this, one of the first intelligent species to come into the universe went out exploring space. And since they were one of the first, they didn't find any intelligent life out there. So what they did was they seeded all the organic soup of life beginning on these planets with their basic genetic code, which is that they had 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, 2 eyes. So this in their storyline, answered the question why they all look, why everybody, no matter what the alien race, basically looks the same. So like I said, they are still constantly filling in the holes to make it a more cohesive whole. And I think because it's an ongoing series right now, it has that advantage of filling in the holes and making it more cohesive, which, makes it a little bit more my favorite at this point. But then again, when I go and watch an original episode, it's like, yeah, I
It brings back that childhood,
Yes,
that
yes.
wonderment,
Exactly.
accepting the convention. Now, the new show, the very newest show, Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine,
I've seen it. I know you've seen it. What do you think of it?
Overall, I like the characters. I like the relationships much more of what's going on, which is one of the big advantages in the new show. They can have the one thing that's lacking in the Next Generation, which is conflict. See, if you notice on Next Generation, everybody gets along.
Right.
Picard gets along with Data, gets along with Geordi, gets along with Deanna Troi, with the Doctor. Everybody's one big happy family. The internal conflict is not existent. So always for those episodes, the conflict has to come from outside. In the new show, you have people that are in a situation they don't want to be in. O'Brien got transferred there. He doesn't want to be there. He was stuck. Benjamin Sisko, the commander, he didn't want to be there. In fact, in the very first episode, he was trying to get transferred back out again.
Right.
You've got the classic conflict between the shape-shifting Odo and the Ferengi barkeep Quark. I mean, they're at odds constantly, which is very reminiscent of the old Spock and McCoy antagonism. They're like...
Right. But for different reasons, though.
Yeah, because they all have their own little goals in mind. In Next Generation and in the original stuff, their goal is to explore space. Whereas on Deep Space Nine, the new show, they very much have their own little agendas as to what they're looking for. Quark is looking for profit, the Ferengi barkeep. Odo is looking to keep the peace and keep things organized. O'Brien is just trying to keep his head above water, fixing this broken down space station. The Doctor is very young and eager and gung-ho and wanting for adventure and stuff like that. So like I say, they all have their own little individual agendas, which gives a lot more character conflict and everything. So like I said, the characters and relationships I really like. The stories, however, maybe 50% of them have been really good that I've enjoyed.
Yeah,
they've been like 50-50 so far.
Yeah.
It's like the first season of Next Generation. They're still getting their feet wet. They're still getting to know these characters. And as they get on into the next season, I'm sure that once they really hit their stride and know what direction they want to go with this series, then they're going to probably really put out some really top quality stuff. As what happened with the Next Generation. You look back at the first season of Next Generation, and you go,
Yeah, kind of perplexing. Now, we have a couple minutes in the show. I want to get this on camera.
What?
This.
Oh,
yes,
this.
You haven't seen this.
Yes, you haven't seen this yet.
Yes.
One of the other things that I do besides comic books and Star Trek and stuff, I also hobbies into modeling, because like things like this Klingon ship and the little Enterprise over there, they're models that I made. This also is a model of Spock's harp, the Vulcan harp. Although this is not a kit. This is not some model kit I went down to the store.
You made this from scratch.
I made it from scratch. I just, what the blueprints are, what it looked like, went out to my local lumber store and bought it and stuff like that. So this is also one of my hobbies too, is woodworking and stuff like that. And so it tied in with my other hobby of Star Trek, and I just made this duplicate. It's Spock's harp.
Yeah.
He was on the original series, and it was also a new one was built for him, which was appeared in his cabin, I believe. I don't think he ever played it, but it appeared on his cabin in the movie series as well.
Now this is not a working model.
No. This is basically just a room decoration that's stuck in the corner of my living room.
That's where I first saw it, and it immediately
sitting on my
drew my
stereo
attention.
speakers. Yes, which is nice because for those people that don't know or don't care or haven't even heard of Star Trek or whatever, they go, "Oh, what an interesting room decoration! Oh, nice." And without having anything to do with Star Trek, it's just this nice piece that sits in the corner of my room.
Yeah, exactly. John, I want to thank you for coming on and for sharing your memorabilia. All these goodies, it's like there's just toys and trinkets everywhere.
Yes.
Now, I would be remiss, however, if I did not shamelessly plug a couple of things that you're involved in and have been involved
Other
in.
things, yes.
First of all, John just finished a run of I Hate Hamlet at Clockwork Repertory Theater, and it was a marvelous performance. You were wonderful.
Thank you.
I really, really enjoyed
Yes.
it. That role was written for you. He was the ghost of John Barrymore.
Yes, portraying, which is why I don't normally, for those people who don't know me, I don't normally look like this. I don't have a beard all year long. My hair is usually much shorter, but I grew this and everything for the character, although it wasn't the way John Barrymore looked. They wanted me to look dashing, and, well, this is the best I could do.
I thought it was great. Now, you have an upcoming project.
Yes.
You're going to be in Pirates of Penzance at Richter Park in Danbury.
Yes.
When does that show open?
It opens, I believe, the third week of June and plays through the first week of July. Plays Thursdays through Sundays for the first 2 weeks, and then just Thursday through Saturday for the third week. That's so they can have an extra day to strike that show and set up the next show, which is A Funny Thing Happened on Our Way to the Forum.
Ah, that'll be a good one too.
Yes.
Well, looking forward to seeing that. John,
Thank you.
thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of my guests, and which one now? Now we play bounce the camera.
Yes.
There. Is it
Look
going
at
to
the
move?
monitor. You can always tell. You know, just watch the monitor.
No, you can't trust the monitor.
Oh, well, that's what
See,
I've been watching.
there we go.
That's what I've been watching. I've been watching the monitor. That's how I know what's going on. I don't
I'll
pay
just
attention
sit back
to the
and wait for
cameras.
everything to slow down. Okay. I want to say hi to all of our friends out there. Pat, you missed last week's show. You missed it. It was a funny show. And I have the only tape. Think about it. Okay. To the Kinzer clan out there, hi. Joe, hi. Everyone else, hi. We'll see you next week. No, we won't.
No?
No, we won't. We are going to be on hiatus because it is Memorial Day weekend, so we will not be doing a live telecast next week. It will be probably a rerun, but it'll be a fun one.
Next week isn't a rerun.
Next week's
No?
not a rerun?
No, that's the 21st.
It's the 21st? Well, okay, I'm a week behind.
So you better show up next week.
I guess I should, shouldn't
Yes.
I? And so should you. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week on TGIF. Come on down. Oh, yeah. No, you're coming on camera. You got to come here. Walk out here.